All right, so in this video, we're going to show you how to create a brush pattern that, in this case, looks like a rope. So we can apply this and use it for a circle or any other path that we want to use a rope in our design. So it's going to be using these brushes. You can see I already have one down here. So what we have to do is create a shape that looks like this. So you're creating a half a shape here and a half a shape here. So it's pretty easy to do this, and I'll show you how to go about that. So we're going to start. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new file, and it's again my standard 12 by 12. Again, you can use any shape. I'm going to create a rectangle to start with, and I'm just going to draw that rectangle, and then I'm going to change the size. So we're going to uncheck this link so that I can make it a 1 by half inch rectangle. So we'll do 0.5 here, and there's our shape, or at least our rectangle to start with. So I'm going to hold my Alt key down and zoom in. Now you'll see these little glyphs on the corners, so we're going to use our direct selection tool, and I'm going to left click on the first corner, and then I'm going to hold my shift key down and left click on the other corner. And what that does is it allows me to left click on the one corner and drag both corners together. And once I get to here, it's as far as I can go, and it creates the initial shape. Then I can come over to my selection tool here, and we'll rotate it up. I'm going to hold my shift key down, and you'll see that it snaps to a 45-degree angle. Now we're going to make a copy of this. So if you have it selected, and as you left click, if you click the Alt key and then the Shift key at the same time, the Alt key makes a copy, and the Shift key, what it does, it keeps it in line. Okay, so I'm going to let go of my keys and my mouse, my left mouse button, and now I have that shape. Now what I need to do is get these two to line up. So you want to zoom in pretty tight. So I'm holding my Alt key down, rolling my wheel forward. And then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this command called Control Y. And that creates like a wireframe. So it shows the paths without the actual stroke thickness. So I need to line this one up over here. So I'm going to left click on the path, holding my shift key down. I'm going to drag this over until it lines up pretty much on top of this one. Right? Now if you want to zoom in even tighter, you can see that you zoom in is about as far as you can go. And then I can left click and holding my shift key down, bring this path back over to this one. All right. So you may have to click on there, hold shift key down, and just drag it pretty much on top. That's probably as good as we need to get it. So now I can Control Y, and it turns those shapes back on. Now you also want to pick, oops, I'm going to undo that, make sure you don't move it. I'm going to select both of these, and you want to make sure that the fill is turned off so that there's no fill in these shapes. Okay. Then we're going to go to the rectangle command, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle over here. And we can go ahead and put a fill in here. It doesn't matter what fill color we put in. We want to put an opacity on it. And what we want to do is we want to line this point so that it snaps to the center or centroid of this shape. And then we can do the same thing if we grab our selection tool, click this, hit the Alt key, we'll drag it over to the other side. And same thing, we're going to grab this glyph here and we're going to snap it to the center of this centroid. Okay, so now we're going to use our Pathfinder tool. If you don't have the Pathfinder tool, if you go to Window and click on Pathfinder, it will open up the Pathfinder tool. I have mine also typically over here, but we'll keep this, put it up here. And what we're going to do is we're first going to union these two objects and shapes together. So I'm going to use the unite, and so next what we're going to do is we're going to unite these two or combine these two together. But before we do that, we want to go to the object, and well, first let's select it, and then we'll go to object and we'll select expand, and we're going to select fill and stroke. We'll click OK, and you can see what that does is it actually gives us a path on either side of our line. Now that we have those, what we can do is use this Pathfinder tool here, and what that will do will unite these two together. Now if you don't have that over here, you can also find it under the window Pathfinder. You can turn that on by doing Shift Control F9, or just click on this and you'll see it opens up a dialog box for you as well. But since mine will show up over here, I don't need that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this rectangle in the shape, and we're going to use this click to minus front. So the rectangle is in front of my object, and when I do that, you'll see that it cuts it there. And then I can come over here and do it again, and now it's cut it there, and there's our basic shape for our rope. So I'm just going to move this over here. Now we can create the brush. To create the brush, you can see I've got my brush window open, and again, if you don't have that, you can go to window and come over here and select brushes, or select F5, and over in the what do we call a hamburger menu here, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click new brush. It's going to be a pattern brush, but before I do that, I made one mistake. I'm going to come up and select this pattern. Now I can do the brush again, new brush, we'll call it a pattern brush. I'll click OK, and now you can see it gives us that rope shape, and then we can control what happens like at the corner. So at the corner here, you may want that auto centered. You can see it kind of changes the shape. And this one are the inside corners, so we can do auto centered as well, and it changes that shape. We want to go ahead and change the colorization, so we can put color and change the color of the shape. And we can give it a name, so we'll call this rope pattern 1. Maybe we make other patterns, and you can change some scaling and stuff, but the rest of this I'll leave the way it is. I'm going to click OK. So now it shows up down here as a rope pattern brush. So now any shape that we create, whether it's a circle or a rectangle or even a curvature line, you'll see that we can apply this shape to it. So I'm going to move this guy over here. Let's get rid of the fill, and let's pick that shape, and then we can just click on the brush, and now we've got the brush shape that if we change the stroke pattern, you'll see that it increases the size of the actual rope. Now you can also reduce it, make it smaller, just by changing the stroke thickness. Now if we want to change the thickness of this line, we can go up to object, expand appearance, and you can see now that it changes that. And now when we add the stroke, it actually makes it thicker. All right, so we can make that thicker. And then from here, you typically want to clean up this, because if we do the Control Y, you'll see that it has all these lines in here. So when we try to send this out to an SVG file, it's going to have a bunch of lines and you're not going to get a really good cut. So I'm going to Control Y again, and I'm going to go to Object and Expand. We'll do that again, and that creates even more lines. But what we can do here is just click on our Pathfinder Unite, and now you'll see that it joins those lines. And if we do the Control Y, that's our cut pattern. So that's what's going to show up when you export this out to an SVG. the machine, whether it's a a Cricut or a Silhouette or even a laser cutter like a Glowforge or something like that, it's going to cut that pattern because there's our path that the SVG is going to have. So I can Control Y and send that back. Now again, I can apply this to any object. So if I click shape, let's turn off the fill, and then let's apply the rope. And now we've got that rope pattern that we can come in and change the shape of that rope. So we can use that rope on any type of graphic that we're trying to create.